right. Well, I might kick it off, and then anyone who wants to join us later will, and hopefully Ben will join us a little bit later. But officially, welcome tonight to everyone to this virtual tasting with independent bottler Maltbarn. We were supposed to be joined by Ben Mitchell, who's the new official importer for the brand, and he also owns a great bottle shop called Moorish Wines, which ironically is better known for its whiskey nowadays. But obviously, Ben is probably still midair and will join us as soon as he can. But you might have noticed we've got an even more special guest. Oh, there he is. Look at that. Speak of the devil. Ben's made it just in time. But I mean, no offense to Ben. More excitingly, we have the founder of Maltbarn himself, Martin. I don't want to mispronounce your surname.
That's Diekman.
Diekman. Amazing. Sweet.
But that's difficult for English speaking persons. Yeah, I understand.
The amount of Gaelic I have to go through, I'm like well used to embarrassing myself pronunciation wise. So but yeah, I'm super thrilled that we get to hear more about the brand from Martin and myself tonight as we taste through the whiskies. So just the housekeeping to go over before we start. Actually, before I go into the housekeeping, hands up if this is anyone's first time trying Maltbarn. Leo, if there's any Michael, I think you've had it before at Whiskey and Element. Yeah, I probably poured it for you. Yeah, I'm pretty familiar with the brand from my time at Whiskey and Element, and I still recall a blended whiskey you guys bottled ages ago called Epitome, I think it was. But yeah, I'm very excited to dive in. But housekeeping first, we recommend having 6 glasses so you can go back and compare each dram if you have the glassware for it. As usual, please don't drive. Responsible drinking is always encouraged. All of our tastings are recorded as well for those who want to watch them back or who can't join us tonight. They'll be up on our YouTube channel, so like and subscribe and all that good stuff. There will be a brand article on Maltbarn at some point in the future. I'm very excited to delve more in and put something together and pick Martin's brain from tonight. And please pop your tasting notes and questions in the chat. That is the biggest thing I love to see is what everyone's tasting. Their tasting notes, they're extra encouraged, especially with a virtual tasting like this tonight. Maltbarn is not technically new to Australia, but we're going to be seeing a lot more of it, which absolutely excites me. But I'm sure Ben and Martin are super keen to hear what you guys think. So yeah, without further ado, we might crack into the first whiskey. And Martin, if you'd like to tell us a bit about how you started the brand.
I started the brand 13 years ago. I was a financial journalist before that for the Financial Times, and I wrote about property investment and do we call them mutual funds? That's, investment funds. And I got fed up with that and left the business. And I was into whiskey since the late 1990s. So I had a bit of background with that, and I was always dreaming of releasing my own cask or several casks. And when I left the paper, the newspaper, we bought a farm pretty near my hometown. That's a very big place, erected in 1840. So it's has a bit of a history, and the barn is 30 by 20 meters. In case that tells you something, are you familiar with meters, or do you? Yeah, so it's a relatively big place, um, and I had the opportunity to buy casks that I liked, and I came up with a name because I thought, okay, if the barn is there, we can make it Malt Barn. And I had an idea about the design that it should show, the surroundings of the barns. So all that all came at once. I just started with it, and yeah, from there it developed. The first bottlings were a success, and I got offered a couple more casks, and yeah, so it developed. And now I'm at about 250, I think, 250 coming next year. So yeah, I'm doing 50 to 20 bottlings a year. I started with only old stuff. My favorite age is normally between 20 and 30, with with exceptions. Of course, there's good young whiskey, and of course, there's good older whiskey, but it's getting more and more difficult to get really old stuff. So I try to find the best of what I can with or a mixture of older and younger stuff. Um, so the main criteria is that I like it myself. That's what I always said. I have to like it, otherwise I'm not a very good salesperson. I met Jim McEwen last week. In case that tells you something, that's the former Bruichladdich salesman, distiller, and he's a perfect salesman. He would sell, he would sell you sand in a desert, maybe. And I'm the complete opposite. I can't sell anything that I don't like, which is okay, I think, and I have to make do with it. So I only bottle what I like. Otherwise, I'm not good at it. Um, yeah, and that's it. Or that's what I can think of at the moment.
No, I love it. Look, I'm the same as well. It's like it's easy to sell something you love as well because you're excited
Mhm.
about it and then other people are excited about it.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm very lucky to love whiskey, so it's not
sure,
hard
sure.
to talk it up. So the first whiskey that we're tasting at the moment is the Maltbarn Orkney 17-year-old,
Hmm.
Highland Park, obviously.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
so when you're picking casks, are you getting them from brokers and stuff like that? Is that where a lot of your stuff sourced
yeah,
from?
yeah, yeah. That's I get samples, and then I decide what I want to do. Sometimes they're good to bottle. This cask was don't remember, can't remember when I bought it. I think in 2018, but I'm not sure. It could be 2019 as well. So sometimes they just need a little aging. When you or when I have the impression that they're on their way, then it's not necessary. Then you can do it as long as you don't say, "Ooh, that's going to be at least 10 years." Then that's probably too long. Sometimes I see a potential in there, but I see that the cask is not good. Then I re-rack it. And I normally prefer refill. I always say my favorite wood is refill wood, but that doesn't always work out, and it's not always good. I mean, there's whiskey that I really benefited by fresh wood. Probably not virgin oak. I'm not into virgin oak, and I'm not into wine. But a fresh sherry cask, if it's a good cask, can really, yeah, can boost the spirit.
Yeah, I think
So
as
yeah.
Michael says, hashtag refill. I think we're all quite in agreement that a refill just gives like a lovely blank slate for the whiskey to
Hmm.
shine by
Hmm.
comparison. But that's interesting that you do some re-racking as well. Is like how long, typically do you tend to do like a secondary maturation or a finish, or if you've decided that it needs something more?
I think I can't say it because it always depends what it is. Sometimes you get fresh casks. Sometimes you simply don't really know how old the cask is that you get. When I ask at the warehouse, "Do you have a cask that is still good?" and they say, "You can take this one." Uh, I ask for a bourbon or for a sherry. That's what I know, but I don't know whether it's a second fill or whether it's third fill. But it works so far. When they said it's good, it really is good. But it sometimes takes a year, sometimes more. In more cases, it takes 2 or 3 years, probably 4 years. I have something I want to mention. I want to tell the name, but I have several that are 5 years in the new cask now. Um, yeah, it's always I get samples regularly, and then I check them out. And when something is good to bottle, then I yeah I I have two casks at the moment that I would like to re-rack. as well. The rest is on its way, I think. But it might take another 3, 4 years.
Yeah, I love that. It's I think a mistake that some not newer, but like some younger independent bottlers are like, oh yeah, I get this and then I bottle it, or they don't have the space necessarily to re-rack. They're like, it has to be perfect when I taste the sample. And I think that there's
Yeah.
so much art form in that secondary life and that tweaking that you give it.
Yeah,
Which
and that gets more and more difficult as well because there's so many samples around that are not well matured because there's so many distilleries now. They're producing so much, so they're taking every wood that they can get, and a lot of these casks are tired. So there's more and more that you have to re-rack something to achieve a good result. I mean, you can there's a market for every bottling, so to speak, and there's bottlers who sell stuff that I would think is immature, but they have their market. They have their following, and that's great. That's perfect. If they can sell it and if people like it, that's perfect. But that's not the way for me because I have to be satisfied with it, and because I am satisfied with it, it doesn't mean that you are as well. I mean, after all, it's a personal thing. But I have to like it.
yeah, no, I completely agree. I whiskey is so individual. When I meet people who are like, oh, I don't like peated whiskey, I'm like, have you tried all of them yet though? Like you can't say that until you've tried a wide variety. I'm there are distilleries that make heavily peated whiskey that I still don't like to this day. So, but I give them a try and just had to find the
Mhm.
ones that worked for me. But yeah, it is so individual. And I think with independent bottlings, this is a great reflection of who you are and your palate and all that, which is really cool. I love the taste notes. Barley sugar on the nose, Leo says. You could sniff it for hours. Ollie says it's what all
Mhm.
Highland Park should taste like. I am in agreement. This is my favorite style of Highland Park, that more like soft heather honey biscuitiness. I love it. Um, Michael says sweet grassy notes, honeysuckle, floral, citrus, and lemon. Um, uh, yeah, a bit of spice on the finish too. Yeah, super, super cool. I will say, I took a little bit of a risk putting this one first in the lineup. So I popped into Whiskey and Ale last night where Ben was for the in-person tasting, and I chatted to the owner, Jules, and he was like, "Don't put the Glentorkas first. It's too good to go first." So I was like, "Oh, I still
Interesting.
want the flavors to work, but." This honestly, the Glentorkas is the one I was most excited to try. It's a distillery I love and have a soft spot for. And I'm trying to get in on my November trip, trying to butter some people up to get to the distillery. But yeah,
Wow.
I was told that I shouldn't put it first, that it's too good. And now I think I've hyped it up too much, but
It's
we
fair
might
comment.
move
It's
on
fair
to,
comment.
huh?
It's a fair comment.
That's interesting.
It is good.
It's interesting you say that because I probably would have put it first, but I agree that it's very good. I would just say it's surprisingly good because nobody wants it really. You have to simply push it to people because that's a good talk. I'm not interested in that, and so try it because it's just yeah, it's excellent for what it is. I think, but I was surprised as well how good it is.
I
But
personally
yeah,
find
let's
that
try it first.
yeah, I personally find that distilleries like Glentorkas and Glenlossie is another one that gets really underrated and overlooked.
Mhm.
So I'm super super thrilled to have more of this coming out. But yeah, like Leo in the comments, a really great Highland Park is now a poor number one. It's the thing when you run a tasting, whatever goes first usually gets forgotten about, but uh, I don't
Yeah,
I don't think we'll fall into that situation here with these. Um, so noticed from the many bottlings I recall and remember, you have a tendency to bottle like the smaller under the radar distilleries, like Glentorkas. Is that something that you actively search for, or is it just an
No, not
accident?
really. It's just that I bottle what comes across and what I like. And if that's good. I remember that was years ago when I bottled my first Tolibardin. That was an 80s bottling, 88 or 89, and I didn't expect anything. And I received the sample, and I said, "Wow!" And at the time, nobody had Tolibardin, or at least that's what I recall. But it's just if the whiskey is good, then I would like to try it, but I would like to bottle it. But it's not easy. It's not always easy to sell. You can sell Highland Park or Ardbeg or something gets flies off the shelves, but Tolly Barden or Glentorchos doesn't.
Yeah. As
It's,
soon as you
it's
said that 80s Telebardine, I could see Leo's ears prick up. It's one of his favorite distilleries. But yeah, it's absolutely spectacular. Norman Beck in the comments. I'm sadly not going on the whiskey list Scotland trip. I'm doing my own trip with my husband for a much longer period of time, and I've got a couple people and a couple places to visit that are not on the beaten path. So but this is gorgeous. This is spectacular. Travis says the nose is so good. Michael, beautifully balanced, an oily waxiness, leatherwood, honey light citrus, and notes of butterscotch. Ben's asking, do you know which distillery the bourbon cask for the Glentorchos came from? So is it the second fill, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know which distillery was the first fill?
No, I don't. It's a second fill. I think it's a second fill, but I don't know. In fact, I don't know what it is. Sorry.
Would it be one of the others in the, because Glentorchos is part of Pernod Ricard Chivas, yeah?
Yeah.
So somewhere like Milton Duff, maybe? Because they're quite similarly floral and light.
Probably, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I like this one.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I was yeah, I find that Craig Alecky tends to be a little bit sulfury funky, so I was like, I don't want to put that before the Glentorchos, but I want to.
Yeah,
I think
that's
this
true.
is
I agree. It has had for the first couple of seconds, it has an off note, maybe even,
mm,
but then it changes. And the interesting thing about uh, the Kregeliki is probably the whiskey that you could spend the most time with out of this range, because it's different after 5 minutes and it's different after 10 minutes again. So that's a really interesting whiskey, but it's not, you don't have to, or you shouldn't rush it, which is not always easy, of course. But it's a very multi-layered whiskey. That's why I released it. Although I noticed the strange note right in the beginning, which is not a very good welcome, so to speak. But I think the rest or time. Um, I don't know the words. Time. Or you get rewarded when you take your time with it. That's probably the way.
yeah, fair enough. So I've got a question for you, Ben.
Yes.
What made you jump on Maltbarn and join the Maltbarn train and start bringing it into Australia?
So I think it was during COVID or just before, maybe actually during COVID. I was just looking at IBs and other ones to bring in, and I had a friend in the UK who had tried Malt Barn and really enjoyed it and was like, "Oh, you should get on this. Maybe give Martin an email and just see if there's a possibility that maybe you can import." And so I did that about 2.5 years ago, and I got a message from Martin pretty quickly saying, "Oh, Whiskey and Almond bring in stuff now. But if anything changes, I'll let you know." And I was like, "Oh, okay." So I kind of like, I've got a lot of those emails from people like where, "Oh, maybe if something happens in the future, I'll let you know." And it just kind of, you have that thought like, you're not going to hear back from them. about like maybe about 3.5 months ago, I get an email from Martin's. It's like, oh, hi Ben, are you still interested? I'm like, oh, love that German efficiency. And it was great. And I was just like, oh yes, please. So I jumped on that quick smart. Martin sent me an email of like what was available. I'm a sucker for bourbon casks as well, and the list was predominantly bourbon cask as well, and some distilleries that I was excited to get into for like the first kind of like dipping our toe into the kind of the Maltbarn thing. So I was did that, and then had a couple of issues with logistics, which were a joy to begin with. And then we got it sorted out, and everything went well. And yeah, we shipped them over by plane because I didn't want to wait uh, like 8 weeks for all the whiskey to turn up, and we had only got a small amount to begin with, so I'd rather do that. So yeah, that's how we got into Maltbarn, and really happy that we did. So the other two tastings that we've done, everyone's really liked it. The one in Sydney at Hojak, and then last night at Whisky and Almond. It was really good. So I just got back in just before. That's why I was a little bit late. So sorry about that. My flight was
right. We were doing the thumb twiddle like, oh, I hope he makes it.
I was like, come on, just get off the runway.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, that's how I got into Maltbarn. So
yeah, cool. I honestly, as soon as I saw your post being like, oh, I'm now bringing in Maltbarn and more of it, I was like, yes. There's so many great independent bottlers that we don't see too much of in Australia, which I love. Looks like, I mean, look, this Glentorquist is beautiful. It's got a lovely youthfulness to it as well. But yeah, it's all my favorite kind of, chantilly cream and scones that I usually love from Glentorquist, and that kind of biscuity note. Sally's getting apple and lemon tart. Leo doesn't think he's had a bourbon cask Glentorquist before. We might have, but yeah, I'm not sure. There's too many virtual tastings that you've been to now, Leo. It all starts to blur together. But Mike says, wow, same notes on the palate as the nose, drinks nowhere near the 54% it is. Pair this with lemon meringue pie, definitely a dessert whiskey, yum. Any type of fruit pie with custard and cream would go well. Yeah, it's definitely that lovely summery desserty kind of thing, and it's got enough character, but it's so quaffable that you're like, oh, I could just have this on a lovely summer day and savor it, or I can just accidentally have 3 without realizing it. Yeah, so good. Well, we might get into the Craigellachie then, because I'm excited about this one as well. I think I've asked this of like a couple of the independent bottling guys we've had on recently. Are you noticing that there's less of certain distilleries casks finding out on the market? So I've noticed that we haven't been getting as much Craigellachie as we used to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think Benriach was another one that is, not really out there much anymore.
It's just, it seems to be coming in waves. I remember that there was a time when we had a lot of Ardmore, for example, and a lot of Auchentoshan, and both are pretty much gone as well for now. I don't know why it is really.
Yeah, I always think it's interesting. So somewhere with someone like Benriach, you can see that they've revamped their range. So they're like, okay, we're hanging on to more of these casks that otherwise would have gone to an IB market. But with Craigellachie, I would have thought that, they're not needing to hang on to as much stock. They're not in decline by any means, but they're just doing their thing. That I feel like they haven't really gone particularly out there with a revamp or a push or anything like that. So, I'm curious as to why there's less Craigellachie around. But even Leo saying Manickmore seems to be increasing and there's no end of Caolila. I think someone said that we're going to have less Caolila independent bottlings coming in the future as well.
There seems to be less casks.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, sorry, Ollie.
Diageo has announced to the cask brokers they're not selling anymore, but there's lots of casks with brokers. So we won't, as the consumer, we won't see an end to Coela for a long time. But cask brokers can't buy neutral spirit or distilled spirit from Diageo anymore. Basically, is my understanding.
Super interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll see. Ollie also asked in the chat, what's your favorite distillery that you've kind of bottled more of, or a cask style that you really like to bottle?
I expected that question, so I was thinking about it beforehand. I always say I don't have a favorite distillery, but if I have to name one, it's probably Colilla. Now that we were talking about it, anyway, because they're very it's very good. They are always good. You can buy these casks blind, and you can bottle it at pretty much every time, any time, any age. And you could probably use wine casks as well, and the end result would be good. So it's a very robust spirit, and um, you can lead it into two ways, really. I mean, if you have bourbon, most bourbon matured Colilas that I know are very clean, and many sherry matured Colilas I know are rather dirty. So that's two different ways or paths you can send them. That's very interesting. So yeah, Colina would be definitely one to mention.
Yeah, I think in most of the whiskey circles I'm in, we call it Mr. Consistent. It's just
Yeah.
consistently going to give you something, if not like something decent, typically really good. It just behaves itself in whatever cask it's put into. I've had some, I think there was a Japanese bottler who did a 3-year-old Kaolila, and even that was like pretty good, pretty cool. I was like, you wouldn't get away with this with any other distillery.
Yeah.
Like
that
would be tricky. But yeah, everyone's getting a chicken noodle soup nose to this whiskey. It really is. Craigellachie, I'm not a fan of sulfurous whiskies, so Craigellachie and Altmore are not top of my, or Brennis either as well, not top of my list. But yeah, it's that chicken Maggi noodles that like really, really interesting, funky sort of.
But I think it disappears after, let's say, 5 minutes. Then there's more fruit coming out, and it's getting cleaner. That's the impression I have, and that's what I like about it.
Yeah, it definitely gets a little bit fruitier on the palate as well. It like it's still that funk, but it becomes like a fermented pineapple kind of thing. Mm. Super cool. Are no, this is a bit of a rude question. Are there distilleries where you typically tend to pass on them more often? But that's a bit nah.
No, not really. I wouldn't say no, just from the looks of it. There's always you can have good whiskey from from any distillery. There's good and bad with everything. I'm sure there's bad Colilla as well somewhere. So it's always worth trying stuff. And as I said, with this Talibaran a few years back, first of all I thought, well, you don't have to try that, and then I tried it, and it's one of my. I can't say it's one of my favorite bottlings, but at least it stuck to my head that it was really worth it.
Do you ever keep any of the bottlings that you've done that you really love? A couple spare bottles for home, or
Yeah, I keep 4 of each for the archives, and the kids should probably get them if if the bottles survive that long.
instead of one of those spend the kids' inheritance holiday, it's drink the kids' inheritance whiskey.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. Sally's tasting notes, interesting, funky one, powerful, Michael, tropical fruit salad, and yeah, barbecued pineapple as well. Yeah, super, super cool. It's yeah, it's one of those, so like spirit sulfur can go so many different ways. And I think Craig Alecky does a really good job of steering it quite good.
Yeah, it's the longer it is in the glass, the cleaner it gets, I think.
Yeah. So is this first fill bourbon cask or refill? This one.
I think it's a refill cask. Don't think it's a first fill because that was 2007. It would have been a different result.
Yeah. Sally has a question with the labels. Do you have any kind of idea or theme to the labels you do? Obviously, you've got some very beautiful scenery. I remember one that had a Highland cow on it, I think, as well at some point.
Yeah.
Is there kind of a vibe to when you bottle, matching a label to the whiskey?
I started with doing labels that had to do with the surroundings of the barn, of the farm here, or the former farm. But eventually I ran out of ideas, and all was red and green and maybe a little blue or something. So I came up with other ideas, and then I started to release in series 6 or 8 at a time with labels that fit each other. And then well, it's more or less what I like. Normally, I have photos, or at least these two parts. So, yeah, this is that's actually. I don't know how I thought about it, but that's this year. There's new stuff coming out at the end of the month, and they will be in the same vein. So that's another what we call 70s designs. Some people loved it and some hated it, especially those who collect, and they say, "Well, we have all these labels like these. Now you're coming up with something completely different." Yeah, I haven't thought about that actually. So next year, what I can say is we're going back to this design with photos as well. There was one series that was with an English photographer who we met on our holidays when we were there. We stumbled into his gallery and we liked his photos so much, and I asked, can we use them for labels? And I had a series with a Swedish artist, a lovely old lady whom I met in holidays as well. There's 2 series of this with very old photos. These are family photos. That's my dad in the middle, and I have some with me and my grandmother. We have photos from the 1930s maybe that are really, yeah, just great, and they mean something to me, of course. So there's always a theme to it, but it's probably the same as it is with the whiskey. I have to like them, and then when I have the opportunity, then I just come up with it.
I love that. I think it's so beautiful. Yeah, the portrait people, same as you, Sally. I loved those. There's just something very wholesome, I think, about these beautiful old photos on these whiskey labels. I will say the 70s theme ones are very German discotheque. So I feel like it's relevant. Maybe it's a bit too Berlin, but who knows?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love it. I think it's so cool. And the great opportunity with independent bottling is being able to put fun things on the label.
Absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's so many guidelines that you have to follow now. Otherwise, like with this one, or the writing has to be in one size, or in fact, the distillery has to be a little smaller than the rest, in theory at least. And it's just, I mean, you could do so many interesting things with writings and all that, but you're not allowed to, and that makes it a little, yeah. But apart from that, I try to do whatever I like and have much fun with it as possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we might move on to whiskey number 4. Now, I was very excited about this one. You don't often see Strathmill. Has again a show of hands for the peeps who have video on. Have you had Strathmill before? You've had a few. Adrian, new to this one? Norman Beck, haven't had it before. Yeah, it's is it Strathmill or Strathisla that's the particularly small distillery?
No, Strathisla.
Strathisla is the itty bitty
Strathisla is the
one.
small one with the beautiful pagodas and that everyone takes photos of. Strathmill is a plant actually, and you can't get into it. I think they don't have a visitor center, and it's not very spectacular. The whiskey it normally isn't very spectacular either because it's not very fruity, and it's rather grainy, and it's a product for blenders really. And this one here, well, it's probably you can't really guess what distillery it is. The Strasser is probably the last thing I would have said. It's just cherry.
Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I think that was there a period of time where Strathmill had like a 45-year-old release or a 40-year-old core release that I remember seeing? Maybe it was 25. Mm. No. Leo's getting dusty leather on the nose. Travis very soft, very sweet. Molly like, yeah, it's very soft for the ABV as well. It's a deceptively high
Yeah,
ABV. That's
yeah, yeah, especially for this age, and it works. It works very well this way. You could probably argue that bottling it a year or two before would have been better because it gets too woody. It's really great on the nose, I think. But if would have had the chance, I should probably have bottled it a year or two before that, because there's many people who like it this way, but there's other people who said, well, this is probably a bit too much on the on the woody side. And yeah, but it's interesting with a great color.
Yeah, amazing. Well, Noah and Becker are massive fans. It smells awesome and tastes better. I'm in full agreement. It's got that lovely kind of rose petal strawberry kind of high tea thing to it, but at the same time it's a little bit dusty. I love it. Ben's prompted a question about where this was bottled. I like that you're prodding with questions from from the sideline. We appreciate it.
What do you mean where it's bottled?
Well, this one was the Strathmill the one that you bottled yourself? Was this one of the ones? Was it this one and the Altamore, or was it the Blair Athol? Am I getting it mixed up? Was it the Blair Athol that you?
No, the Strathmill was bottled in Scotland.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure. I thought it was the other way around. I got the whiskey mixed up of which one it was.
And now you just told me that there's a Blair Athol, and
yeah.
now I expect a sample of this Blair Athol because it's one of my favorites.
Yeah, Blair Athol was. You didn't buy any Blair Athol, did you?
No, I didn't.
You left it out because it was sherry.
Yeah,
maybe.
I think it was that the one that you had bottled somewhere else, the Blair Athol?
No, that was bottled in Scotland as well. I'm thinking about which one it was.
Or the not Altamore, or the Ben Ryan's?
If you get through every single Scottish distillery, you might hit it.
The Ben Rennes, it was a Ben Rennes, but you shouldn't tell anybody because it's not official.
Yeah.
We'll cut this part out.
Just
there
was a couple we didn't get because I was worried that I didn't want customs delay. So for some reason I thought the Strathmill was one of those, but I have mistaken. I have made a mistake on that. But ignore everything I just asked about this question. That question.
That's no problem. I think it probably shouldn't be. From what I recall from last time, it probably shouldn't be a problem at all to import everything because they were satisfied with what we could present them. So
yeah. Well, we'll be handing out NDAs after this.
Yeah.
Nobody talk about the Ben Rennes.
Sorry, Martin. One more question about the Strathmill. Do you know what sherry cask it was by any chance? What type of sherry?
What kind of sherry cask?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it was Oloroso.
Oh, okay.
But I can't guarantee, but I'm pretty sure it was Oloroso, which is my favorite sherry cask. In most cases, I think, because PX gets a little too sweet for my taste, and normally, and the other ones, well, I probably don't have that much experience with the other ones, to be honest. So and you don't get them really. So it's just Oloroso or PX, and then I always choose Oloroso.
Yeah, it's a fail-safe sherry, and it's that sweetness without too much. But yeah, it's just super cool. Michael says definitely. I think Michael and Leo at the same time were like dusty and sweet. So you can definitely get this style of whiskey that gets that really leathery tan kind of thing to it, but it still feels very like vibrant's not the right word, but it still feels very like rounded. It's a confident whiskey, if that sounds not crazy to say.
No, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, no, I really like it. And I'm super impressed at that natural cask strength for the age. Really cool.
Yeah.
Ah, Leo, it's multi-layered. Yeah. Thank you, Leo. Yeah. This big communicator, but I need Leo to help me out. No, I love it. Fantastic. Well, hopefully, I mean, this has kind of introduced a couple newbies to Strathmill and what a good Strathmill tastes like as well. Yeah, it's definitely one of those things. I don't think I've seen too many Strathmills out there, but they're good.
Yeah.
They're just very under the radar. Sporadic casks as well. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, we might move on to a whiskey that's definitely not under the radar. In fact, I think it gets a little bit too much publication sometimes. But I like how you've done the Southern A and Northern C. It's instead of going with codenames for the distilleries.
Yeah, sometimes you can come up with Kildalton or whatever, and that just came to my mind. I mean, everybody knows what it is. It can only be one. I was thinking, what happens when I will bottle Southern Ale, because Southern Ale could be two distilleries. So I would come up with something else, maybe Southern Leg or Southern Lab, or yeah, whatever, if that ever happens.
Yeah. Well,
It's difficult with these rights for names. You can't call them Ardbeg or Laproik or Lagavulin if you can ever get one. So yeah.
And if Martin ever bottles Lagavulin, buy all of it.
Yeah. Exclusive for Australia, huh? La whiskey.
Yeah. Oh, well, Michael's come up with a good one. Southern F or a Southern Frog.
Yeah.
Should be pretty indicative. But yeah, I think Lafroig is stamping down on the use of Williamson now. Have you heard that? They're definitely
that's there are casks on offer on occasion with Williamson, but that's not very original either, I think. I mean, I wouldn't. Well, if you have to use the name, okay, but I don't think it's very interesting, so to speak. I mean, Orkney malt is not very interesting either, but yeah, well, yeah.
I had someone say they were like, well, what if someone bottled a Scapa and called it Orkney malt? And I was like, nobody's bottling Scapa. Like Scapa has their own release. I've never seen it either.
I've never seen a Scapa cask on the market.
Yeah. They don't produce a lot, do they?
I know they don't produce a lot, but I don't know how much they produce exactly. So yeah, I've never seen a cask, and I don't think they will come up the market.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I feel like really, really old school whiskey drinkers, like old gents, know about Scappa, but nobody else does. It's I
Yeah.
don't know. It's one of those weird ones. But yeah, so obviously 14-year-old Ardbeg. Is there a couple of Ardbegs this age out in the brokerage market at the moment? Or is
Not
it
very many.
not many?
No, not many. In fact, there's no Ardbeg at any age widely available. That at least not with the sources that I have. And unfortunately, when you get something, then it's expensive, uh, but it's always top quality. Ardbeg is yeah, they're really good. I I remember all these old Ardbegs, the 70s Ardbegs. Um, that's probably a different class. But these were 20, 22, 25 years old. But you can see similarities, the relatively relatively soft peat, I would think, and especially the leathery note. I think the Ardbeg has a beautiful leathery note that I love very much.
Yeah, I think it's definitely softer than a lot of the Ardbegs I've had. I mean, gosh, ever maybe. Um, Ardbeg's one of those that I'm not a particularly massive fan of. Especially the younger stuff. It tends to give me a little bit more acetone and band-aids and stuff. But yeah, like Ben says, it's very elegant and gentle. Very different. Sally, so good. This A is old style gentle. Ardbeg, yeah, absolutely. Michael looked into it. Apparently, they do 1 million liters a year for Scappa. So probably,
Okay. That's not that. That's quite a bit. I thought it was less.
yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. Interesting to see. Yeah, this is crazy, crazy soft. Glad we
Yeah,
get.
I think Ardbeg is like Ardbeg is the whiskey I could probably nose the best. I could sit here half an hour with this glass, and in fact, I wouldn't have to drink it after that. And that's true for me. That's true with the old Ardbegs as well. Although these were of a different class, as I said, but this is just very much to my liking. Very clean and soft and leathery and maritime and yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely beautiful. It yeah, I agree with I think Travis. It would be great if Ardbeg could put out more whiskey in this kind of flavor profile, this very like lovely, salty kelp kind of style. And like, don't get me wrong, I am a sucker for a sherry cask Ardbeg. It is my 10 out of 10 favorite style of Ardbeg.
Okay.
But
Okay.
they're as rare as hen's teeth and they tend to leave them in barrel for a long time, so they're then super expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful. I'm definitely not giving that to my friend. Yeah, the palate finish is short, but the finish is long and gentle. Yeah, super long finish. Dennis, a very subtle Ardbeg. Norman Beck, this is distinctively Ardbeg. Yeah. Um, Ben loves that you gave it a plain, very like pared back white label. Compared to some of the OB Ardbeg releases these days, they do tend to be a little bit more. I don't know. They're a bit fun, but it's almost like okay, it was fun the first 6 releases.
Yeah, 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 probably. This
Yeah.
one actually, this whole series, if you will, together with the Glentochos as well. This is the idea for this series was I don't know whether I should say that. At least I never said it before, but this is actually from I had the idea by looking at a French perfume company because they had their soap, the wrappings of their soap. They had something like that, with a circle and different colors in the circle and all that. I don't know. I can't remember what the name of it was, but that's what I stole it from, really, and I made it different in that. But that's the original idea. and yeah, the Ardbeg came in white. It's pretty much a coincidence. Yeah, so another secret. Don't tell anybody.
Oh, inspired, copy paste. There's a bottler I know in Italy, and he just finds copyright free images to use as his labels.
Right.
It's like,
Yeah, why not?
touche, fair enough. But yeah, no, absolutely beautiful. I love the idea that a set like sat next to each other. It's this like beautiful combination.
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
So is that going to be something you're doing more of? Is kind of sets of whiskey in the future, or in that?
Yeah, I will do these. But as I said, I'll go back to the old design, mostly photographs or maybe paintings. But I'll go back to the what is it, divided design with a picture on the top and the writing in the lower part. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I love it. Well, I think we shall, as I'm so sad to move on to the next one because the artwork is really beautiful. But we may as well move on to the last whiskey of the evening. I'm sure you've got a big day ahead of you to get to, Martin. So, but I'm very excited about this one. I mean, obviously, we were talking about Mr. Consistent, one of just the best go-to single malts off of Isla. The Caolila 15-year-old. Are you finding that there are more sherry cask Caolilas barrels available, or
No,
still much?
not really. No, not that I would say. I just wanted to say one more sentence to the Ardbeg. If you look at the alcohol percentage, it's interesting that um, it stands so well after the high percentage of the Strathmore, for example, and a big sherry, and still the Ardbeg comes out so robust, actually, although it has 5% less. That's what I just wanted to say. Colina sherry, I don't think so. No, I think it's mostly bourbon. That's my impression. And this one is a bit of a love or hate. Some people say it has sulfur. I don't know whether it's sulfur or whether it's a dirtiness. I'm not very. I tend to not see or know sulfur very well, so I'm never sure. But you seem to be you seem to not like sulfur, as you said, Emma, and that's probably you can tell us more about this one.
Yeah, it's it's a really interesting nose alone. It's got this deviled eggs kind of funkiness, but I also, maybe because I had it for lunch, I had cotto. If you've never had cotto, it's like an Italian patty, and it's like pork bits and whatnot. It's got that kind of porky, but it's fennel as well. They have fennel in it, so it's like it smells like deviled eggs and cotto, which I'm not mad at because it sounds delicious, but I'm also not expecting it in my whiskey. I'm really surprised because a lot of the sherry cask Caolilas I've had around this age tend to err on that more like bacon sweetness.
Yeah, this is definitely something different. I had for a while I even had the impression that it's probably not Colila, but it was sold as Colila. But I think it has. If someone had said this is Lafroig, I would have said, okay, this is Lafroig.
Yeah, it's definitely got that real iodine kind of thing to it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical Colila. I have a more rather typical Colila coming soon. That's what I can say.
Keep your
A
eye
sherry
on it.
Colila.
I love it. Well, speaking of whiskeys that are coming soon, so obviously most of the time we try and have these bottlings available for you guys to purchase after the tasting. There are only a few bottles, I believe, that we can get our hands on. So we're selling them, I believe. They're coming from Ben either way.
Yeah.
Ben is the master of all delicious Maltbarn at the moment. But if you were interested in a bottle, email Chris. I've popped his email in the group chat now. There are only a couple of bottles of each one. I forgot when I was typing it that the Ardbeg was sold out, and I'm glad that I put the preemptive sorry because I'm sad it's sold out now. But yeah, so if you were interested in any of the bottles, send Chris an email and we will do what we can to get it. If more than the amount of bottles, if we get more interest in the amount of bottles we have, we'll do a ballot draw as well to make it as fair as possible.
Yeah, I could probably check in what I have as well in case there is something, and you could order them with the next order in case you're interested.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think some sad faces say you should probably bring in some more of that Ardbeg. If not for other people, just for me to have as a personal hoard. But yeah, this Kalila is beautiful, but that Ardbeg just really tickled me. So Ben has also done a fabulous reminder. If you're based in Sydney, or even if you're not and you're happy to travel to Sydney, we're running a top shelf whiskey festival similar to Whisky Abbey down in Melbourne. So we are bringing some premium drams, and Ben will be there pouring some Maltbarn as well, so you can taste some more again. But yeah, Leo says bring in the Blair Athol. But yeah, so we've got our poll that we run every virtual tasting, so you can pick your top 2 whiskies of the night. Martin and Ben, I believe you can see how people are voting. It's like a horse race. So I don't say anything until the end.
Yeah.
But it is a very exciting seeing how people vote.
Yeah.
But yeah, Leo is saying as well, this tasting's opened my eyes as to how good two over marketed and overhyped distilleries can be. Thank you, Martin. Sally says thanks as well. It's fantastic tasting. Yeah, like I said at the start, I was so crazy excited to hear that more Maltbarn was coming into Australia. I loved every shipment we got into Whisky and Ailment, but I'm excited that it's more accessible for more people as well. So
thanks very much.
Love what you do. Been a fan for years. So
thank you very much. I hope I can keep up doing the good stuff.
Yeah. Ben's prompted, have you got any clues or heads up on what's coming next and when, outside of the exciting Kalila you've got coming?
Releases will come towards the end of this month, I think. I'm not exactly sure when, because not all the bottlings are here. There's still a pallet missing from France, which gives you an indication that it's not whiskey. And there's one pallet missing, or it's on the way. It's not. Thank God, it's not missing. It's on the way from the UK. Will be 8 whiskies in total. 1 cognac, that's the French one. 2 from Islay, 1 unpeated. 1 Lowland sherry.
Wondering now if it's a Bunnahabhain.
They're standing behind me, but thank God you can't see them. At least the ones that are here, and a grain, in the Gordon grain.
Oh, I love him, Gordon. Yeah. So somebody quickly download the video and zoom in, go full CSI on it. But no, amazing. Travis, just a quick question from Travis before I share the poll results. Do you do Irish whiskey as well? I think you did one once, didn't you?
I did in the past. I've had a handful, maybe, but I don't do at the moment because I'm I always liked the pretty old ones, you know, the 90s, end of 90s whiskies, and you can't get them anymore. Or if you can, they're so super expensive that I think the risk is too high. So I not in the foreseeable future, unfortunately.
Yeah. No, I agree. The older like coolies and stuff are
Hmm.
the way to go.
Yeah, there
But
are so many
already,
good ones.
I know. But we've got the poll results, and I mean, I'm actually this is
Okay,
I mean, no love for the Craig Alecky. I think that chicken noodle soup thing
yeah,
is just a little bit funky,
fair
but
enough.
um,
Yeah,
this is great to see. Like I said, the first ones that we taste typically don't get as much love, so it's really amazing to see such a great like even spread. Um,
hmm,
removing the Craig Alley, but the Ardbeg just pips it with a point. So, but yeah, it's
yeah. That's probably what I would have said as well. I would have given points to the Craigellachie, obviously, but I understand why people don't, and that's overall, it's yeah, it's pretty interesting, and it's interesting that the Glentochas got voted so high as well. I think it's deserved, but as I said, people are normally not into it very much.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
absolutely love it. But thank you everyone for joining us tonight. Um, hopefully we will catch you guys at the next virtual tasting. Ben and Martin, if you wanted to hang on for a little bit. But yeah, have a wonderful rest of the evening and enjoy. If
You
you've got
too.
any left in your glass, which I have, I will be savoring it again. But yeah, have a
Okay.
wonderful night, everyone. Take care.
Cheers.
Take care. Bye. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Snaps from Leo. He loved it.